Hey there, this is Dr. Maria with MyCustomHerbs.com, and this is part 2 of Meet Your Digestive System. In part 1, we talked about the fact that digestion actually starts in the head, with the thoughts in our brain, with smelling our food, thinking about our food, with salivating, which brings digestive enzymes into the mouth, and chewing that first break our food down. That's really one of the most important parts of the digestive process. This time we're moving a little bit south, down into the belly, and Milo's helping us demonstrate just where that is. And we're going to get into what actually happens in the stomach. Now, one thing to remember is it's not so much that we are what we eat, it's we are what we assimilate. You could have the healthiest diet on the planet, but if you are not digesting and breaking your food down properly and absorbing those nutrients, it's not that helpful. And so supporting the digestive system is key to working on overall health. And so today we're going to talk about the stomach. The stomach is really important, and so it's a bag in part that holds our food as it's starting to get broken down, but it's much more than just a bag. It's muscular, and it's actually squeezing and contracting and moving that food around in the stomach with our digestive juices to help dissolve it. It produces enzymes and all sorts of things to help break our food down. It even absorbs some things as well. And so the stomach, one of its jobs is to make gastric juice, which is indicated in the green here. And that gastric juice has multiple components. One, it contains acid, as I'm sure you know. And so specifically, that is hydrochloric acid. And the stomach is very acidic inside. It's about a pH of 2, really acidic. You could get burned, actually, by that acid. And the job of that acid is to help start breaking our food down, to help start dissolving the food a little bit, and also to activate a protein digesting enzyme known as pepsin. Pepsin helps break down and digest our proteins into amino acids that the body can use for building blocks and for nourishment. And so pepsin is cleaved from a precursor called pepsinogen. So the acid cuts up that pepsinogen into pepsin, and then pepsin can do its job as a digestive enzyme for proteins. Now, another important role of that acid is to act as part of our immune system, believe it or not. So what the acid does is help kill any microbes that may be hanging out in our food. Say there's a little bit of E. coli in your burger. Our stomach acid can help protect us from that. Is it 100% foolproof? No. And that's why you will hear about food poisoning. Sometimes if there is enough contamination of our food, the acid maybe doesn't take care of all of it. Or sometimes the microbes in our food, say the bacteria, have already spit their toxins out into the food before we even eat it, and then the acid's not going to help us there. But it really does a good job, that acid, of protecting us from infectious agents in our food. So I mentioned that pepsin is a protein digesting enzyme that's active in the stomach. Lipase is a fat digesting enzyme that is active in the stomach to help us break down the fats in our food into fatty acids. Now, the stomach also makes mucus and bicarbonate, and that is to help protect the stomach lining from getting burned by the acid. You may be wondering, well, gee, if the stomach is so acidic inside, why doesn't itself dissolve? And it's because right at the level of that stomach lining there, the stomach has a layer of protective mucus and some bicarbonate to adjust that pH, make it more basic, more alkaline. Now, some people do wind up getting ulcers, and we'll talk about that in a future installment. And the ulcers are where, for some reason, that mucus and bicarbonate layer is broken down, and the acid is now chewing away at the stomach wall. And it can be really painful, as any of you who have had an ulcer knows. But we'll talk about that in the future. So, what keeps the stuff in the stomach? At the bottom of the stomach is the pyloric valve, and that is closed when we are starting to digest. It's closed most of the time, and then eventually it will start to open and let bits of the stomach contents pass further down into the digestive tract. And at the top of the stomach is the lower esophageal sphincter, or LES for short. And that opens and closes, and when it's closed, it keeps the stomach contents in. When it opens, it's letting the stuff we swallow go down into the stomach. So both of these valves have a really important role in keeping things where they're supposed to be and when they're supposed to be there. So in terms of digestion, these little red blobs are supposed to be food. Now, ideally, you've chewed your food a lot better than this person has, and you don't have big chunks of food in your stomach. But a lot of us hork our food down, and we may actually have big chunks of food. But suffice it to say, here is our meal floating around in the stomach acid, and the stomach is contracting and swishing that stuff around to start breaking that food down even further. Through that mechanical and enzymatic action, we're making a little bit more acid here to help with the process and continuing to break that food down. And once the stomach contents get acidic enough, once there's enough acid there and that pH is low enough, that is a clue or cue to the stomach that, okay, the food is probably broken down enough to pass along to the next stage of digestion. And so that lower pyloric valve there will open periodically and let little bits of the stomach content down into the small intestine. And that stomach content, which consists of partially digested foods and acid and enzymes and mucus and such, that's called chyme. And so the stomach will squirt some chyme out bits at a time into the small intestine for further digestion and nutrient absorption. Now, the stomach actually does have some role in absorption. A lot of people think that much of our food gets absorbed through the stomach, and that's actually not true. Most of our nutrient absorption happens in the intestines, and we'll get into that next time. But the stomach can absorb some stuff. So for instance, when we're really dehydrated, the stomach can absorb water, and it's a way to quickly get water into our bloodstream and circulating to all of the parts of the body that need it. The stomach is also capable of absorbing certain medications like aspirin and others. We can absorb alcohol in the stomach, so a fraction of any alcohol we take in, whether it's as a tincture, you're taking your herbal medicines, or you're having a beer or whatever, part of that alcohol actually does get absorbed in your stomach. And actually, if you've ever, say you've gone out for happy hour or something like that, and you have a sip of your wine, and all of a sudden you feel it so quickly, it's because your stomach is actually quickly absorbing some of that alcohol, something to pay attention to. Caffeine is also absorbed in the stomach. It's why that morning coffee can have such a quick effect. And the stomach even absorbs amino acids to some extent from protein digestion. Now, mostly we absorb amino acids in the intestines, but the stomach absorbs some as well. So it's a busy organ. The stomach is doing all kinds of things for us, from protecting us, from starting our digestion, and absorbing some things as well. And so that's it for the stomach. Next time, we're going to move down the line to the small intestine, which has a really enormous role in the digestive process. And until then, be well.